All right. Welcome in, everybody, to the episode number 3 of the Monty and Murdy College Football Show. We're glad y'all having in, or we're glad y'all are joining us today. Monty, how we doing, man? What's going on?
Good. Another good week in the books. Glad to be back on the show. It's been a little while. Excited to talk about the things we're talking about today. Got a lot of controversial things to talk about. Got a lot of things. Uh, it's the month of college football. College football is being played this month, so it's a big episode today. I'm excited to talk about the things we got going on.
Yeah, we I think most colleges across the nation, we kicked off fall camp this week. I believe most of them either
That
did on
sounds
the
about right.
31st or the 1st. So, I mean, football is here. Fall football is here. So, what we got coming up for y'all this episode is we had a listener request to point out some notable incoming freshmen. Some names to be looked out for possibly on that freshman All American team. Uh, as we've teased probably the first 2 episodes, we got our myself's and Monty's top 25. All right, so we'll give y'all who we feel like are the top 25 teams coming into the country. Our lists are not the same, just to give y'all a heads up on it. We got the college football 25 update. Monty's going to give us a little update, see where he's at in his dynasty. Then we've been tossing this around the first 2 episodes, but we finally came up with a new name for our winner or loser of the week. It's going to be the dub or the dud of the week. All right, we're going to stick with that. That's what it's going to be from here on out. So we are looking forward. It's going to be the dub or the dud of the week, and then we'll finish up with Monty's weekly hot take.
Good one. It's a
So
good one.
it's a good hot take. Let's see. So let's go ahead and dive right in, Monty. So freshman All American teams are, they're really kind of hard to predict before the season. There's a lot of factors that go into it. You have you got to look at who's going to be getting playing time, who is the most, ready to play now, but also who's going to be the highest talent. It's kind of a tough thing to weigh of who's going to see the field early and often enough to get the stats to be on that freshman All American team.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, like you said, it's we're gonna do our best to predict, who we think is gonna have an impact right away on the field as a freshman coming up for this 2024 season. As you said, it's hard to predict that. It's hard to know who of these guys are gonna end up playing. Getting a good amount of snaps to be relevant and All American team or freshman All American team for that matter. So no, there's a couple good guys on here. I think we got a couple of the same guys, if I'm not mistaken. But no, so I mean, I guess I'll start off. So my quarterback for the incoming freshman All American offense, and I believe you got him down as well. It's going to be that Dylan Raiola. It's really the only quarterback that stood out to me as a freshman. That's really probably going to have a significant amount of playing time. Um, but I do believe that with that significant amount of playing time, he's going to be. I think he can make an impact definitely with that system that Matt Rule's got going on over there, and they got a decent roster. And like you said last episode, Matt Rule's a very good coach, very very good at being good fast. So I think Dylan Raiola will definitely have a pretty quick and significant impact.
Yeah, I agree with that. Dylan Raiola, he's the quarterback I'd be looking for. I think he's the number one quarterback prospect coming in from the for that freshman class. Real high end talent. He's looking at, Matt Rule's looking at giving him the keys to that Nebraska offense. First year. So as far as guys, that has the potential, has the talent, and then he's got the opportunity to play early. You he kind of is in a sector by himself with just his availability to be able to do that.
Right.
And another one, I can roll on to my second one. One who I think it's a pretty solid pick. This kind of stems for uh, basically based off how this position performed last year for this team, and then the potential I think that this player has. It's going to be Jordan Seaton, offensive tackle, Colorado. I mean, the guy, yeah, I believe he was number one offensive tackle in the class last year. depending on whichever service you're looking at.
It's his other choice was good old Volunteers of Tennessee, and unfortunately he decided to go with Colorado. So I know exactly who that is. Kind of lost you there for a second.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Colorado's O line was, it's not a secret. They were terrible last year.
Yeah.
So with that, I'm looking at, this kid. He's got a great frame, plenty big. I believe he's like 6'5", 320. He's plenty big for the position already. And I believe Colorado's probably going to be looking to start him early and often, try to get him as many reps as he can, because I don't think they have anybody else on that O line that has as high a ceiling as Jordan Seaton does.
Definitely, and could definitely end up being one of those young leaders that they've been trying to get on Prime's team. So I think that'll be an exciting watch. An important one, definitely for that team. If they want to do anything significant, they got to get that O line going. But I mean, I'll start going down the list. You got the dogs barking over there.
Yeah.
I'll start going down the list. Kind of just a few guys that I got. Notable guys, I should say. I'm not going to go all 11, but Jordan Marshall, Michigan running back. That's a position that they're going to need to not entirely fill, of course, because they lost Blake Corum, but they got I'm blanking on his name, man. The guy that's elite in freaking the new NCAA game. That running back. He's on the dang cover.
Talk about. Oh, it's not. I want to say it's. No, I got the wrong name. I'm going to spit out the wrong name. Here, let me look real quick. Go on to your next one. I'll fill that one in for you.
Well, anyways, it's filling in that that other running back position at Michigan's going to be huge, and I think that Jordan Marshall is going to have a big impact there, side by side with
Donovan Edwards.
There it is, Donovan Edwards. Thank you. I hate doing that, leaving the people out to dry and not knowing who I'm talking about. A couple of receivers I got that I think will have an immediate impact. I got Cam Coleman in Auburn. I think he fits the system down there really well. It'll be interesting to see what Hugh Freeze can do with him. I think he can do a lot, and he can make an impact early. Another receiver, one of my guys, one of my favorite guys, freshman coming in, Mike Matthews over there at UT, with a veteran receiving core already at UT. I think it'll be interesting to see what Mike Matthews can do. Heupel is a big fan of Mike Matthews, likes to talk about him a lot. And when he does talk about him, he likes to, rave about him. He's got the size to be a impact guy right away. I, as a fan, am excited to see him play. I'm also excited just as a non-biased person to see him play, and I think he'll pan out to be, along with the development that Heupel and Kelsey Pope, the receivers coach, can do. I think he's going to be a very, very elite receiver. So I'm excited to see what he does year one. And then I got Landon Thomas down at Florida State, tight end. You don't see freshmen. It's rare you see freshman tight ends making an impact early, but I think if there is one to make note of, I think it is that Landon Thomas, especially in that system as well. They like to throw the ball a lot down there, which has changed from the 2010s. So yeah, I mean that's kind of who I have on offense. I don't know if you want to talk about your guys a little bit.
Yeah. So looking at my list, I have a couple more, but one thing I've noticed a trend on is I got quite a few Clemson players under Dabo Swinney, and I think that
I did have one I didn't mention, a receiver, TJ Moore of Clemson, but I did see your list earlier, so I didn't want to, I didn't want any of our three listeners to be like, oh, they're just glazing over Clemson.
Yeah, no, so yeah, it's just Clemson. They don't, that's where they look to the high school recruiting to get them to play early, and if they're not utilizing the transfer portal, it's like those guys have the opportunity, to play early and often, get as many reps as they can. And I think receiver is one of those positions that it doesn't require as much of a development from high school to college football.
Sorry, I just had to show.
I got you. uh,
I
so
finally looked at myself in the camera and I was like, oh yeah, I wore it for a reason.
yeah, don't forget about the shirt. Gotta
Yeah,
plug the shirt.
yeah.
By the way, for any of our listeners out there, we are getting some Monty and Murray College Football Show hats in. So if anybody wants a hat, DM us on any of our accounts, which I do need to pull up at the end of this. I promised I'd get them to them, so I will.
Okay,
Uh,
yeah, we can get those to them. That's important.
yeah. um, but yeah, so I got Bryant Wesco out of Clemson, wide receiver. He's recruited out of Texas, big tall receiver. I just looking at it with Cade Kubnick, Clemson. I think he's got an early opportunity to play, and I think he's got a tremendous ceiling. I mean, I think he was a 5-star. It depends on your service. Like I said, all of them have a little different, but he's going to be within everybody's top 100 players from last year's recruiting cycle. So I think he has the talent, and I think he's got the potential to get early on the field. I also have Micah Hudson, wide receiver out of Texas Tech. Also another Texas recruit. But
Texas boys.
yeah, the Texas boys, they can put out some receivers, man. But Micah
See,
Hudson,
what the listeners don't know is that he's trying to be unbiased, but he's being biased secretly with all this Texas propaganda he's spewing out.
I'm just saying some of these Texas boys, man, they can put out some receivers now. And if you look at it, Texas Tech, all right, probably not recruiting on the same level. They don't land Micah Hudson's, every day.
No, they don't. But yeah, with that coach, I, and
Joey
again, of
McGuire.
course, I'm always blanking on people's names in this show, so sorry about that, people.
Sorry,
But
I got you.
yeah, um, since he got hired, they were supposed to have a big year last year because the roster that he got, they had an okay year. It wasn't exactly what they were expecting, but it's interesting. He recruits really well. It's what it seems to me because he's had a short career at Texas Tech, but he seems to recruit pretty well there. The question comes in developments, the developmental side of the players. So it'll be interesting to see what Texas Tech does. But I do like how that McGuire recruits.
Yeah, he's done a really good job, and apparently that NIL collective out there must have some money. Not to get too far off a tangent, but I mean they just played a softball pitcher, $1.2 million to transfer there for a season. So it's
See,
like, if
yeah, I
they're
mean,
they're dishing that out for softball players, I mean
out in
that's
those oil fields, there's not a whole lot to do.
yeah. I guess you got to find something to root for.
Yeah.
Another interesting prospect I had. Uh, so his name is Terry Bussey. He's going to be an A&M player. Now when I was looking at him and you look at his measurables, to me he looks like an offensive player, either a running back or maybe a slot wide receiver. He's about 5'10", 180. So he's a little small for an SEC corner.
You all right over there?
Yeah, I'm fighting through it. Okay, I'm fighting through it.
You can take whatever time.
So yeah, so I mean he's real electric, but whenever I was reading some of the stuff, catching up on him, it looks like Mike Elko plans to start him at cornerback. And I don't know if he's playing on maybe that nickel corner, that slot corner. But I just think, if he's planning on playing him outside, I mean, I just think he's a little small for a SEC corner. However, I think he's a really dynamic player, and he's probably going to end up finding his way on the field on offense. I just don't think he's, one of those guys. He's got enough talent to where, he may try to do a Travis Hunter type deal, play a little defense, play a little offense, and then probably try to see which one works out best for him. I would say my next one, but it's got a little too much bias in it, so I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole.
Well, I mean, Oklahoma's got some good guys coming. If it's an Oklahoma guy, you can say that he's going to have an impact. You know more about Oklahoma than I do, or I'm sure some of the listeners do. So you can give him some insight.
So his name's Taylor Tatum. He's a running back. He was number one running back in the last recruiting class. Came out of Longview, Texas. Plugging another Texas guy.
Hometown boy.
Yeah. 5-star running back. I mean, he's early returns from just since he's been on campus. He wasn't an early enrollee, so he just showed up this summer. But early returns this summer is that he's coming in. He's already kind of built for the part, and he's got something that OU hasn't really had. The past couple of years, we haven't had a back that can actually break that first or second tackle, make the first man miss. That's how you get a lot of. That's really how you see a productive back is the ones who fall forward and the ones who make the first guy miss.
Right.
So, I mean, he has that ability, which we haven't had. OU hasn't had a lot of, at least here in recent memory. The past 2 or 3 years under Brent Venables, they haven't had a back that really makes a guy miss. Usually the first guy's bringing them down. They may fall forward, but that first guy's
Right.
bringing them down. So it's
coming to think about it, like you really, other than Adrian Peterson, you don't really I don't really think of Oklahoma as having this long line of good backs. It's you get receivers and quarterbacks. Really is what I think of when it comes to Oklahoma football.
See, I would say our running back heritage is probably a little bit, maybe a little bit better than our receiver. Our receiver room is really good this year, but I mean, we got after Adrian Peterson, there was DeMarco Murray, who's now coaching the running backs.
That's true, yeah.
And then we had Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine. They were there at the same time.
Right, and I guess right. Joe Mixon, Samaje Perine. You're right. They do have some good backs in history. I'll correct myself. It's running back room is not the first thing I think of when I think of Oklahoma football. I think of throwing the ball, quarterback, and that was partially Lincoln Riley's doing, being the quarterback guru that he is now that at USC, or trying to be anyway. But yeah, I guess that's my point, is that I don't think of running backs when I think Oklahoma football. So
yeah, everybody tends to associate it with a quarterback school, which, I mean, when you have
it has been.
Yeah, it has been. It has been. Let's see who else we got on the. Oh, I got some guys on the O line. I got Kevin Haywood at Wisconsin. Early returns from out of Wisconsin were just that he was an early enrollee. Early returns are that he's already got a game ready build. He's built to handle the Big Ten. And like I said, Wisconsin, for some reason, they've always had good O lines. They're a downhill football team.
Absolutely, they're known
monsters over there.
They're known for their corn-fed white boy, freaking giant O lineman. Yeah, no, I know it. And them, Nebraska, Iowa. It's the Big Ten O line. It's just
corn country.
Yep.
It's corn country. All right, let's switch over to the defensive side of the ball. Who do you got on the defense side of the ball that you got?
Yeah, so I tried gathering as much as I could. And looking at it now, kind of right before we went over to defense, I realized that every single person on this list that I have is all SEC. So
there you go. Plug that bias early. Plug that bias early.
Wasn't even like looking at an SEC website or anything, trying to find these guys and see what they were all about. It's literally just who I found, who I liked. So I got a couple Florida guys, a couple Georgia guys, Bama and Mizzou. So, when it comes to Georgia's defensive backfield, they're typically always elite. Especially as they're consistently a top 3, top 2 football team as a whole anyways. But what separates them, I think, is obviously that O-line, along with having elite defensive play. So a couple guys that I noticed: cornerback Ellis Robinson, the 4th, and that KJ Bolden, safety. I think with those guys coming in, they could. Georgia's kind of like that one program. They're kind of like the Kentucky or the Kansas of basketball, but for football. They can have those guys that make an impact. They typically do have those guys that make an impact early, while also having those veterans. And I think that Ellis Robinson and KJ Bolden can easily be those guys that come in and make an impact early in the defensive backfield. Another guy that I wanted to make note at corner was that Jalen, and I don't want to butcher his last name, but Mbakwe, I think is how you pronounce it.
Ooh, good shot.
I think that's what it is. I could be wrong. But like I said, I don't want to butcher it. But Jalen Mbakwe, if I'm saying that correctly. If not, somebody can correct me at a later date. Another guy, like I said, can come in, make an impact on a what some people would say could be a damaged Alabama defense. It'll be interesting to see who they play. And I mean, they had two big time guys, that Kool-Aid McKinstry and again, blanking on the other guy's name, but they both just left for the league, so you got some spaces to fill on the defensive backfield side. And I think that Jalen Bakwe can be one of those guys that can step up relatively early. Hopefully, for them he can produce right away. But yeah, the Mizzou guy, man, it hurt to put a Mizzou guy on here. But defensive tackle, Williams Nwaneri is another tougher name to pronounce.
I think it's actually Winery, but yeah.
Either way, I'll just call him Williams.
Big Will.
Yep, another guy, especially with Mizzou, with how Mizzou's season ended up going last year. Big things for them this next year. They're looking to play off the success they had last year. I think as an interior defensive tackle, being a defensive tackle, to be able to make an impact early is huge, and I think that he can definitely do that there in Columbus. And then I got a couple Florida guys. That L.J. McCray, he's listed as a defensive lineman. I put him as a kind of an edge guy because he is a little bit taller, but he's just listed as D line on most of the sites that I saw. So I put him as, like I said, put him on here in that because we're kind of going in that All-American watch list. So I just put him as edge, but he's kind of interchangeable. I think he can make an impact early. Florida being that team that's going through a freaking 12-game gauntlet pretty much. Along with his buddy linebacker Miles Graham, I think those guys, if any freshman can do it on that Florida team, it's going to be those guys that can make an impact with that schedule. So that's all I got on the defensive side. Like I said, it was all SEC. Swear it wasn't biased because I don't have a Tennessee guy on there. But it was guys that I looked at and I thought, man, these guys can definitely have an impact. And especially with the Georgia and Alabama guys on teams that are that good, I think it's next man up, and I think those guys can definitely do that for those teams.
So for my defensive, I got start off. I'm rotating back to Clemson again. Sammy Brown, linebacker, 5-star. I think he's got a really high ceiling. Unfortunately, OU was like number 2, 3 for him. Really wanted the kid, but he chose to go to Clemson. He's got a bunch of ties to the school. I think kid seems to be made of the right stuff. I think he can make an early impact. And as we mentioned, we've already kind of discussed the whole Clemson deal and why those young players are able to kind of just come in and look for playing time immediately. Who else I got? I want to touch back. I did have one player on my offensive that we didn't touch on. It's a tight end. It's Jonathan Eccles from the University of South Florida. Really,
Ooh, see, you're telling that's Alex Golish right there. That's my guy, dude. That's Alex Golish is the head coach over there. He was Tennessee's OC when we had that 11-win season. Big fan of South Florida.
Yeah, so I was looking at this kid, and he's a I think I was looking on ESPN 300. He finished as like the number 180 player, 180.
It's typical for a good tight end.
Yeah, typical for a good tight end. But then I looked over to the right, and I'm like, USF. You know what I mean? Like the talent level for the majority of that team, and then where he is at. There's kind of a big gap there.
Hey, so I'll be honest. Dark horse team now with that 12-team playoff, South Florida. I'm telling you. You'll see. I'm not saying they're going to do it. That's not my hot take of the week, by the way.
That's an interesting take.
It's just a team that people should watch more closely than they think. That's all I'm going to say.
I think with that 12-team playoff, it gets to. We're going to get off topic. That's how we go down rabbit holes right there. So another player I got going back to the defensive side of the ball, defensive end Brian Robinson, Kentucky. I know it's going to be tough for you to give a Kentucky player props, but
he made the mistake of picking that team. I can't help him, but it's all right.
I just think it's kind of the same thing as Jonathan Eccles. He's just a really high end defensive player, defensive end specifically, and I feel like he'll be able to work his way into some early playing time just with his level of talent. I got to know you, player, but
Dude, you got
so
it.
let's
I
go
don't
with.
mind. I don't mind
I'll
you
go ahead
play.
and say it. His
Talk,
name it's
talk
Jaden
about it.
Jackson. OU actually landed a top 10 defensive tackle in David Stone last recruiting cycle. But I'm actually going with his lower ranked counterpart, Jaden Jackson. They both played together. They were both paired up defensive tackles at IMG Academy, which for those who don't know is a prep school down in Florida. Basically, all they do it's like a college football factory. They produce lots
It's a
of D1
college.
players.
It's a college sports factory. You go to school there.
Yeah,
It's like you're going to school for sports, pretty much. I don't knock it
exactly.
because it gives you an opportunity, but that's basically all it is.
Yeah, they don't. I don't even know. They only really play the national circuit, right? Like they don't. They're not involved with a.
No, they play like 10 games and they're done. They don't go like the playoffs or anything.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think you're playing for state championships or anything there. It's like
No,
just basically a national rank deal.
it's for recruiting. It's pretty
Yeah.
much what it is, to get you to the college level is what it is. And so if you're going there for the right reasons, yeah, hey, I'm all for it.
So yeah, Jaden Jackson, big guy. I think he's already over 305. I think he's about 305 pounds, roughly about 6'3". But early returns out of spring ball and summer ball, the dude's been an animal so far. I mean, he's probably going to be on OU's two deep. He's probably not going to be either one of the starting D tackles, but he's going to be that next guy in, that heavy sub, which Brent Venables likes to get those guys a lot of playing time. So if he's already popping up on that two deep rotation, then he's probably going to look to get himself a pretty decent amount of snaps. So are you ready to move on? Are you ready? You ready to talk top 25?
I've been trying to get to this one. We got some things to discuss.
So how do you want to go through it? Break it
about.
down. Do you want to just both of us list our different?
I'm trying not to. Can you still see me? Am I still being shown?
No.
Okay. That's what I was worried about, still being able to use my phone. By the way, whoever is listening or watching this freaking podcast, I promise you, this is very early stages of this podcast.
Very early.
Let me go. I will be able to, I will have the computer, I will have the room behind me. I'm in the middle of a move. Me and my girlfriend are moving into a very, very cool house just up the road from where I'm at now. But we started the podcast kind of as I was getting ready to move. So we're in the middle of a move. I will eventually get the whole setup Murdy's got going on over there. But just bear with me while I use the phone for a couple more weeks, and we'll get everything figured out. I promise you, just stay with us, whoever is with us. But so what I was gonna try to do,
you want to send it over to here? Send it to me real quick.
Well, no, I mean mine's on paper. So what I was gonna do was just have yours up.
I can tell you what mine is.
I was gonna say if you want to just go through yours, I'll write it down.
Okay.
And we can talk about them.
All right. So, do you want me to? Should I talk about it as I go through it?
We can do kind of like a.
I'll give you the names. You write them down, and then we'll go through and talk about it.
Give the people the reason why you put your interesting list together. Where you put teams where they are.
Okay. So as we're going through, I find it best to kind of work these things. The top part is really easy to do. If y'all have never put together your own top 25, top part is usually pretty easy to do.
So you get to the meat and potatoes of the freaking list.
Yeah, once you get pretty much like 6 and down, 6 to 25 is where you're like, man, I don't know. There's a lot of.
I didn't struggle too much with my top 12. I'll say that.
All right, so going through my list, I got Georgia Bulldogs number 1. They're got a very proven track record. Carson Beck coming back. I just, there's a lot of confidence. I know they're going to be good. There's not a lot of question marks around that team outside of if they can make it through the season without everybody getting arrested. So that's really about the only thing is, whether or not they're going to get into a chase with the Georgia State Patrol. Number 2, I got Ohio State. Biggest question for me is going to be Will Howard. quarterback. I mean, he's got all the talent around him. If you looked at the blue chip ratio, Ohio State's at like an insane number, like 93% blue chip players, which is going to be 4 stars and up. So, you're looking at top 300 players, in the country, and they got 93% of their roster is filled with those guys at Ohio State. Number 3, I got Oregon. I just got that defense. I got a lot of faith in Dan Lanning putting it together, and Dylan Gabriel going out there transferring to be their quarterback. He's a fifth-year player. You know what you're going to get from Dylan Gabriel. It's going to be very solid quarterback play. It might not be anything that's, world blazing or record setting, but you're going to get very good, consistent play. And I think that's all they're going to need. Is they don't need him to be legendary. They just need him to be good to great, which I think he's more than capable of doing.
I copied down your top 25, so we're good to go.
All right, we're good to go.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll keep going through. Ole Miss, man.
So yeah, that's kind of my first question. I don't necessarily disagree, but Ole Miss at 4. Tell me about that.
So Ole Miss at 4, going through my mindset. So they got Jackson Dart returning. I believe he's going to get even better this year. He's got more talent around him than he's had before. They're an 11-2 team last year. Their schedule is pretty similar. It didn't. Not saying that it's easier or harder. It's roughly about the same difficulty that it was last year. And I just, all the transfer portal talent. If Lane Kiffin can build a culture there and, be able to get all those guys to get the same level buy-in out of all those transfers, I mean, I don't see him taking a step back from 11-2. If that makes sense.
Like I said, I don't necessarily disagree. I just, because a lot of people, and I have them in my top 10 as well. And a lot of people are high on them. So I just, I could be persuaded. I have my own personal opinions on Lane Kiffin, another guy that Tennessee has opinions on as well. But yeah, no, I just wanted to hear what you had to say about him.
Yeah. So move on, or else we're never going to get through this show. Number 5, we got Notre Dame. I know you think you hate that one, right?
That one's awful in my opinion. But
I think Marcus Freeman is a great defensive coach, and
yes, I agree.
I really like Riley Leonard. I think he's an upgrade at quarterback. Help them score. I think it'll assist them in scoring more points. Riley Leonard even showed his worth, at Duke. With Duke's not going to have the same level of players Notre Dame's going to have, so he's upgrading his supporting cast. And I mean, he's going to be probably a first-round pick after the end of this year.
I just don't see Notre Dame at 5. I don't see him in the top 10. They never do anything with it. They never have. They remind me of when you put. Sorry, you're not gonna like this. When you put like a Big 12 team like Oklahoma in a playoff, they have a good enough roster to get there, but they never have a good enough roster to do anything with it. And so putting them 5 is a waste, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's tough for me to pencil out like 3 for sure losses. If I take schedules into account just because, it's like, hey, is this going to be a 1-loss team or a 2-loss team? Or, Notre Dame, there's a lot of unknown with it just because they're not tied to a conference, if that makes sense.
Well, exactly. So there's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of question marks when it comes to Notre Dame. So I wouldn't put a question mark team at 5 personally. But
well, the thing is, I was just looking at it. I'm like, well, what other teams do I have question marks? I have question marks about pretty much everybody outside of the top 4. I had question marks about Alabama. Jalen Milroe, I think.
Well, of course, but that's you got to. Well, anyways, we'll keep going.
All right, number 6 is Alabama. All right, so put them there. I mean, I think they got the talent on the roster. Caleb DeBoer, he's proven to be a good coach. He coached Washington to the playoffs last year. Proven to have success as an offensive mind. I just don't know, is the defense going to take a step back? And that's kind of where my question mark is how is the I think it's it's almost impossible for Kalen DeBoer to live up to Nick Saban's level of coaching, if that makes sense.
I mean, it's hard for anybody to.
Yeah,
At this
it's not
point,
fair for anyone.
Kirby Smart's doing a damn good job of keeping up or trying to catch up at least.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's kind of hard to say anybody can do that.
And yeah, so that's my point is, so if it's almost no matter what, Alabama is going to take a step back in coaching, how could I show them performing better than they did last year, if that makes sense?
Yep.
Number 7, I got Florida State. And I don't feel 100% about it. I'm going to be dead honest about that.
I have them at 8 in mine. Spoiler alert, I have them at 8, so I see what you're seeing.
I think DJ Ugalele. Did I nail that?
Ungalele, I think is how you pronounce
Ungalele?
it.
Okay.
Ungalele. Him. So that's what I was going to say. I don't mean to cut you off. I'm just going to note this real quick. He's the way that I see him transferring to Florida State is how I see. Same way I see. Jesus Christ, I always forget their names. Going to Oregon.
Dylan Gabriel.
I see the exact same thing. You got a guy that can produce on the field. I mean, whether he's had struggles in the past or not, he can produce. He's a good quarterback. He's a veteran quarterback. He's been there. I think he could fill the shoes there, and I think they're a very good team. Anyways.
Well, apparently I put Alabama twice on my top 25. I don't know. Either way, number 8 is.
So I saw Bama at 6 and then Bama at 9. And I didn't want to say anything, D, because I didn't know if you were going to just get something on the fly, so I didn't want to embarrass you.
Yeah.
I left your 9 blank, but
I appreciate that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and move everybody up one.
Okay.
And then we'll go ahead and add Arizona in as number 25. Spoiler alert. All right.
There you go. Arizona makes the cut, makes Murdy's cut.
So Missouri, I got them at 8. I don't really have a lot of faith in that Missouri team. However,
you're preaching to the choir on that one.
Yeah. However, they do have an easy schedule. I don't know how they got that SEC schedule, but they got an easy one. Only really 3 tough games: A&M, Oklahoma, Alabama, and
I think all 3 of those could easily be lost too.
Yeah, they very well could be. But even then, they're a 9-3 team. I was looking at last year's top 25 poll, and it was like 9-3 teams were, 13th and up. So, it's like, well, if they're a 9-3 SEC team, they're probably not going to be too far outside of that. I had them winning at least one of those games. I personally believe it's probably be the A&M game.
Which they probably will. I'll say that. So if any of our 3 listeners are Mizzou fans, I'm not hating on you. I think they probably will go 10-2 again, or maybe even 11-1. They do have a pretty easy schedule. It's not the hardest schedule.
Yeah, no. I guess we'll go ahead and move on. Number 9, our new number 9, it's going to be Texas.
I already moved everybody up on your list, so
there we go. So we got Texas there. Sark's coming back. Got Quinn Ewers returning. Now they did lose, I believe, 13 starters to the draft. So, I mean, it is a heavily different team. This team is not the same team that it is last year. But they also don't have as killer of a SEC schedule as some teams do.
Yeah.
And, they may go 10-2. And, that would put them right there at that 9-10 spot for me. Next up, I got Utah. Cam Rising coming back. I think Utah's good. They're my betting favorite for the Big 12 champ. I know you already got a hot take. Iowa State's going to win it.
However, that's the hot take, but Utah's definitely right there with them.
I think they were lacking quarterback play last year, even though they still put together a really good season. They just didn't have the quarterback play. Cam Rising was never able to get back from that knee injury. So I think him coming back this year, you're going to see kind of maybe even a better version of that 2022 Utah team.
And by the way, whoever's out there in the void listening to this, kind of letting Murdy just roll through his top 25. I will also, once I get through my top 25 or as I'm going through it, I'll be able to elaborate also on what I think of these teams too. and we can talk about it a little bit more then. We just don't want this podcast, to bore everyone and be like 2-3 hours long. So that's why between each team, it's kind of getting quiet, and he's just going to the next one. Trust me, I'm holding my tongue. I do want to say things about this, but we're trying to get through it to have that conversation towards the end. So just to let everyone know that.
So number 12, I got Oklahoma. Already
11 now. 11 now.
Oh, 11 yeah, sorry. 11 now. Oklahoma. Which, makes a big deal because, I won't give it away. All right, Oklahoma.
I guess I said the preface at the right time, because this part of the top 25 of his, I really have to hold my tongue. So I'll let you continue though here.
Yeah. So Oklahoma, I got a lot of faith in the defense. I said it on the last pod. I think they're probably going to be the number two or three ranked defense in the SEC. I think Jackson Arnold. I think the wide receiver room is probably easily top 3 SEC. The O-line, I got faith in Bill Bedenbaugh. I mean, he's put a lot of O-linemen in the NFL. I believe he'll get a good unit together. And, we got returners in the running back room, pretty much everybody coming back. We add Taylor Tatum, and then Jackson Arnold. I mean, if he's just top half of the SEC in quarterback play, that'd be more than what OU needs from him with the other pieces they have surrounding him. Number 12, I got Tennessee Volunteers. I don't need to say much. I know you'll probably elaborate on it, so I'll just roll right on. 13, I have Michigan. A lot of question marks surrounding Michigan for me. I think they still got a really good defense. I think they'll still have a really good O-line. I got questions at the quarterback spot, and then, you got Jim Harbaugh leaving. And then you have that weird thing with the postseason ban. I don't know if you saw that going on.
I did see that. It's hit or miss. I think that'll have more of maybe an effect on recruiting, though. I think with the guys that they got right now, they'll still be fine. But I'll let you continue.
Yeah. So following that, 14, I got SMU. I know that's probably my hottest take right there. Is in this top 25 is SMU 14.
I saw that one. I was like, whew. I was like,
huh. I think they're just going to be really good, man. They got,
that's not as hot. That's not as hot as a take as your Notre Dame. It's not one in my opinion. So.
Probably not. I mean, I think Notre Dame's a consensus top 10 though.
Well, then you won't like my list.
So SMU, I think it's Preston King is their quarterback. Really good guy. I watched him play actually in person last year when they came and played OU. Granted, it wasn't the best game for them. OU's defense was still a little pretty nasty early in the season. But I saw a lot of, he flashed throughout the game, just different moments. You can see a player, he'll throw a really good pass, then he might go 3 and out the next set of plays. But, you're able to see him flash. They were real close. They were almost that group of 5 team. I personally think they should have been that group of 5 team that made the New Year's Six Bowls or whatever last year.
SMU always kind of lingers around that almost elite, kind of where Cincinnati, not as good as Cincinnati, obviously, when they made the 14 playoff, but kind of lingers around that top 15, top 18. So I wasn't opposed to them in the top 15. It was just, it still is SMU, and you just don't know. So we'll see. They're in the ACC now, I believe.
Yep, ACC.
Yeah, so that could change things. So we'll see.
15, I got LSU. A lot of question marks surrounding that team. I'm not sure how good the defense is going to be. They did get recruited Missouri's defensive coordinator, brought him over, hired him. Who really made Missouri Missouri had a really good defense last year. He was kind of the orchestrator of that whole deal. They got Nussmeier, right?
Nussmeier, quarterback, yes.
Yeah, quarterback. He played really good in the bowl game. He played, sparingly as he's played really well. You're not going to get Jaden Daniels level of play out of him. I don't think it's fair to expect that.
Probably not year one. Probably not
year one. You're not going to. So I think you are going to take a little bit of a step back there at the quarterback position. It's almost hard not to whenever you have a Heisman winner. So yeah, that's my only thing about LSU. Penn State, man, I just can't get myself to buy it. I've seen so many people they have Penn State like top 10.
Most websites, most other college analysts, they have them high. It's one of those teams. I'm kind of on board with you. I have them a little higher than you do, but yeah, I'm kind of the same way with them. I really don't see it. I don't see them as high as everyone has them. But
18, I got Texas A&M. Might be too
you got
high.
them
I
at
don't.
you got them at 17 now.
17. Sorry, I haven't updated my list. 17 is Texas A&M. Kind of a tough call for me. I mean, looking back at it right now as I'm reflecting on it, maybe move Oklahoma State and Kansas State above them just because those are a little bit more proven programs. I know what Kansas State and Oklahoma State are going to be, but Texas A&M, they have the talent. I think they have. It's pretty clear they have more talent than both Kansas State and Oklahoma State. It's just whether that Mike Elko is going to be that guy that can fix Jimbo Fisher's culture problem, which I'm not 100% that's the case. I mean, you got to think he was on that staff with Jimbo Fisher previously when they were still having the culture issues.
Oh, I'm holding my tongue.
Yeah. So A&M, I have some question marks about him, but the talent's there. Connor Wyman, I think he'll be really good this year as long as he can stay healthy. So if they have him at quarterback, I think he will help them win quite a few football games. As stated, I had Oklahoma State, Kansas State following that at 18 and 19. They're pretty much the same thing year in, year out. I mean, Mike Gundy, he's going to put a solid team together. Alan Bowman returning for what seems like his 8th year. I don't know. I feel like me and Alan Bowman might have graduated high school at the same time. And he's still playing college football.
Yeah.
Following that, at 20, I got Iowa. I think if they could just score some points, man, that's what it boils down. Can they just score some points?
That's a phrase as old as time. If they can just score some points.
If they could just score some points. Iowa, the defense is going to be good. It's going to be. It's proven that, throughout the years.
Year in, year out, yeah.
They're solid. It's just, they hired a new offensive coordinator, and let's see if I haven't seen him make any, statements that he's like, I guarantee you, or my job, we will win 20. We will score 24 points a game. but we'll see what they do. 22. Following them, I got Clemson at 21. Maybe that's just a little bit of Dabo hangover. I still think Dabo's a really good coach, even though I feel like if he would just use the transfer portal, he might not have the fallback, but the ACC is also not that, frankly, good. I mean, you got a couple good teams at the top with Florida State, SMU. Miami might challenge them. NC State. There's some good teams in there, but it's like you can also pick on the bottom of the ACC pretty easily and get yourself quite a few wins. Following Clemson at 22, I got Nebraska. Cornhuskers, baby. Matt Rule. I talked about it on the last podcast. I'm a believer in the Cornhuskers. I think they're going to be really good.
We got to start adding Murdy's hot take at the end of these freaking episodes too, man. You got some freaking fiery ones this episode.
So, like I said, I discussed Nebraska on the last podcast. If you haven't listened to the last podcast yet, go back, give it a listen. Following Nebraska, man, I got NC State. I'm going to be quite honest with that. I just saw them in every other top 25. So I went ahead and added them in just because I'm like, well, everybody else thinks they're going to be good. So
yeah,
what am I missing? Maybe it's
they're similar to Arizona in the sense of a
lot of returning production.
A lot of production coming back.
24, I have Miami. They I just think, Mario Cristobal, we'll see if he can make it work. That's the big question with Miami is is he going to be able to, make that, have them take that next step. I forget who they got coming in at quarterback, but I won't try to hold it up anymore. So following Miami, we already said it. Number 25, Arizona, good returning production. I watched them light up OU's defense in the bowl game at the end of last year. Most of those guys are coming back. But they are replacing Jed Fish, who left and went to Washington. So we'll see if that head coach can take them and roll them. But it's a lot easier to do when you have that kind of returning production. It wasn't an exodus of talent, and you're having to rebuild and regroup and pull in talent. If it's already there, you already have a pretty good machine to work with. So it's a little easier for a first-year head coach coming in. All right, Monty, I'll quit hogging the mic. Go ahead. What you got for your top 25?
Okay, so start off at number 1. This is one thing that I do want to preface as well, because I have to stick to my morals. My morals are very important to me. This is something I've always believed since a very, very, very young age, and it hasn't changed since, because I do believe so. I believe that if you win a national championship, you are the number 1 team in the country until proven otherwise, even if it's week 1. So starting off at number 1 is Michigan. Now, this isn't because I think that they're going to end at number 1. This is because they won the national championship last year. If it was Texas, it would have been Texas. If it was Tennessee, it would have been Tennessee. If it was Kentucky, it would have been Kentucky. It doesn't matter. If you win a national championship, in my eyes, you start at number 1 because it is yours to lose. Do I believe that again, I'll repeat, do I believe that that's going to happen at the end of the year? No, I don't. But I believe that they should at least have that. Number 2 would be, or is my would be number 1, Georgia. Same thing you talked about. The tried and true program. You got the next Nick Saban at the helm, in Kirby Smart. They're not doing anything wrong other than getting arrested by the police. Yeah. But as long as they can stop doing that and figure out, at least not get their freaking star guys arrested. They got
Georgia's NIL over there is pretty good, so they got bail money. They'll be fine.
Well, man, as long as they keep getting friggin' bailed out. Anyways, number 3, I got Ohio State. Man, I hate when they're number 1 and number 2 every year on everybody else's list, but I can't ignore the roster they got. I know everyone says Ryan Day won't win shit. He has yet to prove otherwise, but you can't ignore the roster they got there. There's a reason why they're always in the top 5, whether they do anything with it or not. But I do like the roster. I think they got then they got Chip Kelly coming in as offense coordinator. Huge Chip Kelly guy over here. He didn't do what he did at Oregon at UCLA, but he made UCLA really good for the rosters that they were dealing with and the injuries that they dealt with. Number 4, I got Texas. I think Quinn Ewers has a serious shot of winning the Heisman Trophy. I know a lot of people have their question marks about Quinn Ewers or say that he's not all that. I believe he is all that. I believe he's probably the most, out of the QB class that he's in, I believe he's the most ready or the most NFL qualified. I think that this is going to be a big year for him under Sark again. Yeah, they lost a couple key players, but they also still have a lot of key players coming back. So I think this could be another big year for Texas, unfortunately. To start, when I first did this list, I had Bama at 5, but I ended up switching Bama with Oregon. So I got Oregon at 5 now. I'm also a big Dylan Gabriel fan, even though I forgot his name earlier. I have been since he was at Oklahoma. I don't believe he should have lost that spot, but I'm happy that he's going to Oregon in a very high-powered offense. I think he's going to be able to show that he's not just a system guy. I think he's going to be able to show his arm talent. I think it's going to be a very similar Quinn Ewers type deal over there at Oregon for him. And Oregon might be one of many national champion dark horses. So I got him at 5.
Now, are they a dark horse if you have them at 5?
I mean, yes, because there's other people outside the top 10 that I believe that could also win the national championship.
Okay.
And inside the top 10. Well, then, like I said, you still got Georgia. You still got Texas. You still got Tennessee. So, anyways, 6. I got Ole Miss. Like you were talking about them earlier. You got them at 4. I can see it. I know that they're going to end up being a good team this year. Lane Kiffin is, as much as it pains me to say, he is a really good coach, really good offensive coach. Same thing as a couple of those other teams that we talked about earlier. A lot of production coming back. Jackson Dart, another Heisman candidate at quarterback. If he can minimize any of those mistakes, I think they can be a very elite, threatening program this next year. So I got them at 6. And then I got Bama at 7. It's Bama. You know, Kalen DeBoer, yes, he's a very good coach. I have him lower than what I initially had him, only because, yes, it's still a first-year coach, even though he's inheriting a Ferrari, and he just brought a team to the playoff. It's still a question mark in my eyes. We still don't know what he's going to do year one. So still top 10, but not in the top 5 anymore. At 8, I got Florida State. So, like I said, with you, I think with DJ at quarterback, I think that they're going to hit the ground running this next year. Mike Norvell's got the horses going. I think it's going to be a hard train to stop. I think DJ's going to just, like I said, pick up where he left off, and Norvell's going to pick up where he left off. I think it's going to be a good year for Florida State. Whether they get into the playoff, who knows? But I like them at 8. Number 9, I got UT, University of Tennessee. My guys, obviously. I know most websites got them around the 15 spot, which you could definitely make an argument for it. That's why they're the experts, and we're just sitting here talking about college football. But I think with what Nico proved at the end, that's his first start ever in college as a freshman. He comes in and he shuts out Iowa 35-0 in the bowl game. He has 2 rushing touchdowns. He didn't really do anything wrong. For a freshman, he didn't really do anything wrong in that game, and that was very comforting, very big deal for Tennessee fans to see. I'm excited to see what they do. Veteran receiving core, elite defensive line. The only question mark we really have is the defensive backfield, like it is every year. You saw what we did with a mediocre defensive backfield when we had Hendon Hooker. So I'm excited for those guys. I have them at 9, inside the top 10, but you know, I know that might be a hot take for a lot of people, but I do believe that they're up there. Rounding out the top 10, I got Mizzou. If Drink can keep it up, man, there's no reason why they can't be in the top 10. I'm hoping that UT can get them this year, but it comes down to that easy schedule, or relatively easy schedule that they got going on compared to other SEC schools. I think that they got a relatively easy path to 9-3. If not 10-2, if not 11-1. So I think 10 is the right spot for them. Then I got Penn State at 11. Just like you said earlier, I don't really understand the top 10 thing with Penn State. They got a lot of question marks at the quarterback position. I'm not a big fan of that guy. Another guy I'm blanking on his name.
Drew Adler.
That's the one. Drew Adler. You can go on Twitter and you can look up the Penn State Twitter. A lot of Penn State fans aren't even high on the guy. They're just kind of riding behind him because the coaches are saying, "Hey, man, this is our guy." So I'm at 11, but yeah, I'm not high on him this upcoming year. Wasn't high on him last year. They proved me wrong last year, so we'll see what they do this year. 12, I got LSU. Yes, they lost Jaden Daniels. Nussmeier is a guy that I think that Brian Kelly can control and keep in his system and do well with. My opinion on LSU, they never rebuild, they reload. It's one of those SEC longtime powerhouses. They kind of, in the past couple of years, they've kind of lingered around that 10 to 20 range. I like them at 12. I think they have a good chance of at least running the table in the West with the question marks at Alabama, or what used to be the SEC West, and the schedule they have this next year. So I think LSU at 12 is a good spot for them. 13, Utah, I probably could have put them where Penn State's at, switched them in Penn State. I do think that, they're going to be right there with Iowa State at the end of the season. Big Cam Rising fan. Love the guy. I'm so happy he's coming back. I'm hoping that he stays healthy for this year. I think he can have a big year. They can definitely run the table if he stays healthy, in my opinion. 14, I got Oklahoma State. Man, the Pokes, they're always there no matter what. They have down years, they have up years, but the Pokes are always there. They always have something going on for them. So I think that middle of the pack there in the top 25 is a perfect place for them. 15, I got Clemson. I like Dabo staying at dying on that hill with no transfer portal, and I think that they're going to have a pretty good year this next year. Whether they stay around that 15, we'll see. But I think that's a good starting point for them. I think that they always have talent. It's still Dabo. They can still develop players. They can still recruit. They've had a couple down years the last couple of years, but man, I think Clemson's always going to hang around, kind of like Oklahoma State. But we'll see what they do. 16, got OU. You kind of spoke for them. Everything that I was going to say about them, at least. If that quarterback can have an average year in the SEC, they're going to go a long way with that defense. And I definitely think that they deserve to be ranked. And I do see a 9-10 win season for them. 17, this is the one I got Notre Dame at 17. I'm not high on Notre Dame. I don't know why they're always in the top 10. It's borderline A&M and Miami annoying for me. It's like at some point, if they didn't win 10 games consistently without doing anything, they would be not ranked for me. So I put them at 17 as being nice. 18, K-State, go ahead.
I was just going to say, with Notre Dame, man, I was going through their schedule, and I'm like, I can find 3 losses for them, but I can't find any more, if that makes sense. So if their floor is 9-3,
But that's 9-3 is not 5 in the country. So
yeah, I get that.
that's around 17. So I gave them that. 18, I got K-State, tried and true program. They're always in that area there. I love the grittiness of the Midwest. Love the old school uniforms that they stay with. That quarterback, man, I'm a big fan of his too. I think that they can do some special stuff there in Manhattan. NC State, I got at 19. So just like you, I had them actually higher than you did. They have that production coming back like Arizona with the same coach. The only thing, that quarterback can do what he does, I think they'll be all right. But hopefully they lose to Tennessee. 20, this is the one that was probably one of my hotter takes. I got University of North Carolina, UNC, at 20.
Mac Brown.
I never doubt Mac Brown, even though he's, other than, what was it, 04, 05, or 05, 06 with Texas. He hasn't really done anything since. He's still one of the all-time greats, and I think that he's actually made UNC better the past couple of years than what they should have been, just because of coaching. 21, I got Arizona. You harped on it. You nailed it on why they should be ranked. They got the production coming back. The only question mark is the coaching. But they got a good coach coming in, so I think that they'll hit the ground running as well. I got 22. I got KU, or University of Kansas, Jayhawks. Kind of where they lingered last year. I think they're going to linger around that 20 to 25 throughout the year as well. They got a good quarterback, good running back coming back. It kind of just depends on the defensive front. The front 7 really is what I want to see do well. If they can do that, they can stay ranked and do some damage in the Big 12. 23, I got Kentucky.
Did that hurt?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, just putting a number next to their name hurt, but I got to be honest, they have a good roster as well, man, and they got Stoops at the helm. They're still not going to beat Tennessee, but they always have a good roster, and I know Stoops can recruit. I listened to a Kentucky podcast after we beat them last year, and man, Kentucky fans are like, no, don't fire Stoops. Stoops is not the problem. So clearly they got something going on there where they actually believe in Stoops. So I think they can do a little damage this year. I'm hoping that we can edge them again this coming year. But yeah, I got them at 23. 24, I got Iowa State. Great quarterback and a coach that has proven himself, has proven to be able to get to that top 10. I think this is a very, very, very important year for Iowa State and Campbell's seat as head coach, and I think he knows that because they had fans calling for his head last season. So I think this is an important year, and I think that this is he's gonna get over the hump this coming year.
Would you see him almost fight that fan whenever they were doing like the stadium walk up?
Oh yeah. Remember, my dad went to Iowa State, so I'm involved in Iowa State athletics, but yeah, we know about that. 25 was one that I didn't have him ranked for a long time, and then I just keep seeing stuff. I keep seeing stuff about him, man. And I finally bit into it. At 25, I got Virginia Tech.
Hi.
Virginia Tech. I was like, man, why? Because Virginia Tech they weren't that good. But then the back half of last year, they did really well. And then they got that production coming back just like Arizona, just like NC State, just like those schools that we're talking about, like big year for them because they got this production coming back. Great coach, production coming back. They're coming off a hot second half of the season. So I think 25 is a really good spot for Virginia Tech.
Is Tony Elliott still the head coach over there? Or is he at Virginia? He might be at regular Virginia.
I didn't say I don't. Yeah, it's at Pry.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brent Pry. Yeah, he was there. He got there at the end, towards the end of the season in 2021.
Yeah, it's regular Virginia.
But I think 25 is a good spot for Virginia Tech. I think they do. They'll get to the top 20. They won't be ranked come the season, but I think they'll get there at some point. And that's my top 25.
So, for everybody following, do you want to go back through them, just re-hit them, just list out the numbers, or do you just want to? I can direct people to our social media platforms. I could put 2 polls, and we can have listeners of the pod vote on who had the better top 25.
Yeah, I'd say just put the top 25s somewhere where they could see them, and then you can put a poll and see who's got the better ones.
All right. So y'all look for the show. I'll plug all the ads here at the end of the show, but we'll make sure to we'll put both top 25s up. We'll let y'all vote in the comments section who y'all think had the better top 25s between me and Monty. We're going to go ahead and move on to our next segment here. Kind of a terrible segue, but hey, we're still, early on in the podcast, so we'll get a little better at those. Monty, you got any college football 25 updates for us? Where are we at with the dynasty?
So we still didn't make or win a national championship at Texas State. I'm actually on season 3 now because it's been a little while. So season 2 rounded out. We ended with the same record, 11-3. However, we did make the 12-team playoff. Actually, as the 4 seed, we were the number 10 team in the country. People that play the game know that the way that the simulations work, they seed really weird for the playoffs. So I made the 4 seed, got the first round bye as the number 10 team in the country. So I got the first round bye. Utah and Georgia played each other first. Georgia won. I played Georgia in the playoff. So I made the playoff. Unfortunately, lost that game, 38-24 to the Dogs, which it made me look better, though, because as the season ended, Georgia ended up winning the national championship. So we lost to the national champions. It hurt. We were winning at one point in that game. Guys played their tail off. But we're now currently 6-1 in year 3. I'm still the offensive coordinator. We've had two different head coaches at Texas State, and they still haven't hired me as head coach. I'm still the OC, and I'm the one constant that's been winning games. So if they don't offer me that job, they get a new head coach. They don't offer me the job, man. I'll be skirting here pretty soon.
So did we have was there another turnover issue in the Georgia game? Did the turnover bug flare its head again?
There was one pick, actually. We played pretty well in the throwing game. That's kind of what kept us in the game up until the end. The problem was that there was a fumble that was returned for a touchdown there towards the end of the game, and then they went back on offense, and they went up by 14, and that was kind of it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're already kind of running a little long here on the pod. Normally we try to shoot for about an hour for y'all, so we're gonna go ahead and roll on to our. So as I said earlier, we finally got a name for this segment. It's going to be the dub and the dud of the week. Uh, if it's not coming through clear enough, it'll be DUB dub and DUD dud. So Monty, who do you have as your dud of the week? Let's start with your dud.
Well, as many people already know, this is no surprise. And once I say it, they'll be like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But my dud of the week is Deshaun Foster. That's UCLA's head football coach. Man, that media pressure was awkward. I will say he owned it. He turned around and owned it with another presser. What was that, yesterday? With the shirt that he wore, the "We Are in LA," because of the debacle of a presser he had. But yeah, man, he's gonna be my dud this week. It was brutal. It did not fire me up about Bruin football. So we'll see how that ends up. I'm glad that he owned it though. I'm happy for him there.
What's
I
going through
believe
your
in him as
head?
a coach.
What do you think's going through your head if you're the player? If you're the player, like a UCLA player, and you're gonna see that. So
Yeah,
it's
well,
like,
they did say that like the player, like after it happened and everyone was making fun of him, they did say like the players they love the dude. So
yeah,
they're probably like, I was awkward. They probably gave him shit for it, and that was that, I'd
yeah,
imagine.
rolled on.
But
And they're like,
yeah,
coach, you're just as
they're
bad
like,
at
all right,
this as we are.
he can't. He's like, all right, he can't do pressers. That's fine.
Yeah,
Four's up.
yeah.
Who do you
But
got? Who do you got for your dud?
so you want me to do my dub or my dud?
Dud.
All right.
DUD.
For my dud, I got Quentin Conley, tight end, Kansas. It's not for anything he did on the field or anything like that. He did this TikTok video where he is
Uh
awkwardly dancing in this bathroom to a Lee Bryce song.
Oof.
And it is, if y'all haven't seen it, I'll spell it out for y'all. It's Quentin Conley. So it'll be Quinton, Conley, Conley. If you just search that name on TikTok, he'll be like the first video up. It'll be him in a full Kansas Jayhawks uniform in this bathroom, just with this.
Hopefully, he didn't delete it.
No, he didn't. I just looked right before this spot. I just watched
Okay.
it, so it's still up. And if not, I'm sure you can find it on Facebook or everywhere. I'm pretty sure it's made its rounds. It was a pretty, man. It's just not the vibe I want going into a football season, but
Yeah. Morale takes a tumble there.
all right, let's roll on. Who do you got as your dub of the week?
I got so what's funny, me and Murdy were talking about this before we went live. I couldn't decide if I wanted him to be my dub or my dud. I ended up going with dub because, as you'll learn throughout this podcast, I'm a diehard Chiefs fan. I grew up in Kansas for a little while there in my younger years, so diehard Chiefs fan. Dylan Raiola is my dub of the week. He looked like rolled into practice looking like Pat Mahomes, and it fired me up a little bit. Now he did look like a little bit of a great value, Pat Mahomes, but he looked like my guy anyways. And he slung the rock around, and he looks good. He looks fired up. I think there's gonna be some big things coming from him this next year. So he's got my dub. He's got my dub of the week, looking like Mahomes.
I like it. I like it. Well, I mean, you were giving me crap about the Nebraska thing earlier, but it seems like you're buying in with me.
Hey, they're still unranked.
Still unranked.
They're still unranked until proven otherwise.
So for me, man, I kind of went with a really, I guess it's a cop out. I ain't gonna lie, it's pretty much a cop out. But my dub of the week is gonna be football fans in general. We are finally rolling in.
Though.
Huh?
I said for a good reason, though.
Yeah, we're finally rolling in, man.
Season.
Fall camp is on. We are right in the month of August.
Football this month.
Yeah, we will have football this month where we can quit doing all these kind of made up shows. We're going to actually get to the meat and potatoes of what this show is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a preview and a recap show. We preview, give you all the next games coming up, and then we recap the ones that just happened. Hit the highlights from them and keep y'all schooled up on what's going on across college football because everybody doesn't have time to watch every game. Every week, every Saturday. So it's, we're going to be able to keep y'all schooled up and, we're rolling into the month of August and we're excited. And I'm just excited as a football fan. I'm ready to throw on the jersey and just
That's right.
Get ready for Saturdays, baby.
Try them tailgates, man. I'm gonna go to a couple of Tennessee games this year, get my tailgate on, and be able to come back here and talk about this stuff as a little side gig. It's exciting. I'm excited.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. So, as we always, I say always, we're about 3 episodes deep, but as we're always going to do, we're going to finish every episode with Monty's weekly hot take.
Keeping y'all busy, keeping me busy trying to think of these. But I will say this is a good one. This is a good hot take. I think it's I think it's a little colder than the last two. But I think my hot take is the Big 12 becomes the most exciting conference in this next year. I think, man, there's no real front runner. You can argue Utah, you can argue Oklahoma State. My argument's Iowa State, but either way, it could be UCF. You got Gus Malzahn there taking those boys. You got a lot of different teams. You got Colorado. You got these teams. You got so many question marks surrounding the Big 12 with all these added teams and losing the 2 blue bloods. So I think the most exciting conference this next year is going to be the Big 12. That's my take.
I actually really like that. I don't even know if I'd call it a hot take, man. That conference is just
it was one I thought about, and I was like, man, I saw something about it, and I was like, yeah, you know what? Big 12 could definitely be the most exciting conference because it's still a power conference.
Yeah.
It still matters. It's just we don't know who's going to win.
Yeah, I think it's the Big 12 has what I would call a deep middle. Like the middle of that conference is deep.
But no real front runners other than Utah and Oklahoma State maybe.
And somebody nobody's even been talking about West Virginia. They
Baylor.
had Baylor,
like
which we'll
Iowa
see if
State.
Dave Aranda can turn it around. I don't know. They haven't looked too good the past couple of years. They had that really good first year with him.
We'll see, but that's the point.
Yeah.
Right. We don't
even
know.
TCU. They're only 2 years removed from playing for the national title. And, they were very young last year. It's like, maybe a little more experience this year. They might be able to win some of them close games. Other than that, man, let's roll into our outro. You got anything you want to say closing out the show?
Just whoever does listen, we really appreciate it. As I said earlier in the pod, very, very early on, I promise you it's going to get a lot better. I promise you it's going to get way better than what we're doing here. We're just trying to get episodes out, talk about things we want to talk about, get used to talking to each other. If y'all have any, critiques, anything that you think would probably make this show a little bit better, do not hesitate. You can we're tough guys. We can handle criticism. You can harp on us, get mad at us, say that we're wrong or we're right, or you should do this in the show. When you do this, it bores the shit out of me. Tell us what you want, because we want this to do well. We're doing it not because of fame or fortune. We love talking about it, but we do want to entertain people when we do it. So do not be afraid. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you want. We're excited to do it. We love doing it. We want it to become not just a side gig. So anything that y'all got, man, we appreciate it, and we appreciate whoever is listening for listening. And we're excited. Football season, it's here. It's here.
All right. So as Monty put me on the spot last week's episode, so I'll go ahead and give y'all all the ats. So y'all can follow the show at Twitter at Monty and Birdie. You can follow the show on Instagram at Monty and Birdie College Football, or it's Monty and Birdie CFB. You can follow the show on Facebook. It has a Facebook page, the Monty and Birdie College Football Show, or CFP. It's CFB Show. You can follow it on TikTok at Monty and Birdie CFB, or follow the show on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Set up notifications. It's going to be at the Monty and Birdie CFB Show. Other than that, man, we thank y'all for listening. Like I said, follow the show wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow the show on YouTube. We'll be back next week, with another episode on Friday. Y'all can tune in every Friday. We'll have them posted for y'all. Y'all can have them. It's supposed to be set up for the in-season stuff, so that way y'all get a Friday preview. You can wake up Saturday morning. You already got the college football knowledge, that we had discussed on the show. You're ready to go for that Saturday. Other than that, man, thank y'all for listening. We'll catch y'all next time. Peace.
Peace.